Ladies and gentlemen, we have something very unusual for you here today. Something I wasn't expecting from the Antec booth, the company that makes power supplies and cases and fans. We have a handheld games console that like to rival the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck. Words I still don't really believe when they come out my mouth. But I mean, it's here. This is literally the Antec product. This is called the Core HS. And it comes in white and black. And as you can see, it is a perfectly normal looking console, right? And then actually you slide it up and it reveals a full keyboard. That in itself is pretty neat, right? It's not really something we've seen from loads of companies before. You get a few smaller Kickstarters and smaller companies doing something like this, but not a larger company like Antec. And that's where the sort of catch comes in, really, because this is almost like a rebadge at the moment of a device from Ayaneo. But that in itself isn't necessarily a problem, because obviously Antec can deliver the goods when it comes to actually like shipping this more globally. But this is actually a very powerful, slim and relatively lightweight device that you can use wherever you want, right? And we've got it here running Forza Horizon 5, and actually, in my experience, it's been running really, really well. I have had very smooth gameplay. I haven't had any like stuttering or hitching or anything like that. There's going to be a couple of different versions of this, but this actually comes with 32 gigabytes of RAM as well. In terms of like allocation for like the GPU and the CPU, it's certainly got the potential. The performance isn't quite as good as the Z1 Extreme that you find in the ROG Ally, but it's not actually too far off. The screen itself is also 60 Hz, not 120 that you find on the ROG Ally, but it's 1080p, and personally I kind of think that's the right way to go, really, for what is essentially going to be a device that you can be running portably, and it's all about battery life. I'm going to have to put this microphone down. I'm afraid I gave Editor Carl my other mic, so apologies if this looks a bit weird, but get over it. You can see you can actually tilt the device as well, like that, so you can either use it in like more of like a sort of chat mode or something like that, or obviously because this runs a full version of Windows, sometimes PC games do need keyboard input. Sometimes it's literally just press tab or press W or something like that, and obviously that would be really useful here to do that. The device actually feels quite nice in the hand, I'm pleased to say. When it actually comes to playing something like Forza, you can either use it in the normal mode or, as I say, with a keyboard displayed. It definitely feels heavier than some of the other devices on the market, but I quite like the shape. I like the way it is when you're actually using it in this operation. It's going to depend on the game, but generally speaking, I wouldn't say I have any huge ergonomic problems the way that this actually fits in the hand. The only thing I will say though is that when you do open this up and you start wanting to use the keyboard, well, you can see the problem here. I mean, you just can't reach the middle keys. So if you want to use Q or P, absolutely fine, but actually sort of typing this out, you're going to have to move like that, and then that's not really ideal for if you're trying to use the keyboard and play games at the same time. I mean, I do like the fact that you can use it obviously with the screen angled or like that, and it's great to have the flexibility. That is definitely the main selling point of this, is that keyboard, and it does make it unique. The mechanism for the slide is quite nice and satisfying as well. I'd say that there's a little bit of wobble, and if you do sort of push it up maybe just from the left or the right, there's again like a little bit of wobble, but I mean that mechanism is surprisingly sturdy, to be fair. One thing though I definitely will say that I've noticed just from using it, as we get our Ferrari out, I will say that the sticks don't feel the best. I'd sort of go with maybe like 6 out of 10 on the scale. They're absolutely fine to use, but don't go expecting like loads and loads of feel, and they're not going to be the absolute most responsive things in the world. I mean, maybe that's a bit strong. I mean, they're perfectly responsive in games, but when it comes to the desktop use that I'll show you in a second, it doesn't really work as well as I would like. But for Forza, it seems good enough. But yeah, compared to the ROG Ally, like no way near as good. If you're regularly going to be playing like games like this and you're not interested in having the keyboard, then clearly the ROG Ally is going to be a more polished device. And I also think that the triggers themselves are just very soft. They're very spongy. They don't exactly offer confidence, and you're not getting any feel through them. But there is a little bit of like vibration through the device as well, which is okay. I wouldn't say it's like the best haptic feedback in the world, but it works absolutely fine. Buttons, again, it's all very similar really. I would say this pretty much has the features, but it's not the most polished thing in the world. And to illustrate this as well, there's a button here, very similar to what you have in the ROG Ally. We've currently been using this in the balance preset. You have a few different presets. You've got extreme, balanced, and saving power, and that's what will control the TDP of the device. And obviously, the more power it uses, the worse the battery life, but the better performance. And likewise, if you're playing something like Civ and you want it to run at 30 FPS, low settings, you can sort of force it into those modes, which is quite good. We've also got an FPS limit. So a lot of the features you would expect are here, again, like we've seen on like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally. And this integration is fine, but I mean, this isn't Antec software. Again, it's like a reskin at the moment. It works, and most of the features I think most people will want is there. Like, you've got this FPS overview, you can adjust the size as well. So you can definitely monitor things. It very much is like a true like PC device on the go, which is what you want. And I think with that keyboard, it's going to appeal to a lot of people. But as soon as you get into Windows, you've got all of the sort of like full points, I suppose, that you'd have with the ROG Ally, but they're made worse because I think there's just less optimization here. I can't actually get into Windows at the moment to illustrate this problem. So let's go into the keyboard. I'll press Windows, which brings up our, obviously, version of Windows. Can I get into the desktop? Windows and D. Yes, there we go. We've just about made it. And then is a touchscreen as well, but obviously it's a small version of Windows. It's not, I mean, technically it is touch optimized, but I mean, this is never going to be like the best operation in the world, right? I mean, you're always going to have larger fingers and like smaller icons and things. Generally, trying to navigate Windows on this is not the easiest, so to speak. In terms of like launching games and things, it's going to be fine, but it's not necessarily going to be optimal. But if you do want to use the mouse, here we are. If you want to use the mouse, it's the left stick. And I'm not sure if this is a bug or not, but at the moment, look, as I sort of move around, it almost kind of goes like and takes some weird angles. That's not exactly very smooth, is it? Because it actually, like in Forza, it was fine. It, you know, it works, right? I would not have a problem sitting in the back of the car playing Forza on this. It handles heat very well as well. The chips weren't getting particularly hot. It was making a noticeably louder noise than something like the Steam Deck or ROG Ally, and the heat that was actually coming out of the back of it wasn't like too hot or anything. You put your hands over there, you're not gonna worry. Well, at least I didn't have to worry about like burning myself or anything. That wouldn't be very well thought out, would it? You've also got some extra buttons here as well, like your volume rockers and things, but they're just not the most tactile things in the world, like power buttons. Got your USB-C there as well. It does come in a 2 terabyte flavor though, which is pretty good. That's the one that we're getting in the UK and I think the US as well, the one that has that 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I believe that also runs at 7200 megahertz, which is pretty cool. You can expand that with a micro SD card slot on the bottom though, and because it comes with a dock, you can obviously expand this out further, but it's nice to have the 2 ports on this as well. I'll walk you through the dock very quickly though. Because this is made by Ayaneo, and clearly there's some sort of branding issues happening at the moment, it still says Ayaneo on it, which I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, because they're being very transparent, which is good, but maybe it's just that they don't want to manufacture extra docks. I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. But on the back, you've got your Ethernet, you've got HDMI, 2 A's, 2 USB-Cs, which is quite good. One's got the little power logo, so I assume that's obviously where you plug it in. And then you've got another micro SD card slot and a full-size SD. And when you use it in this orientation, then you can actually plug it into like a display like we have here. So if you want to use it as more of like a normal PC at home and then take it with you, again, something like you'll find with the Steam Deck, then you could do that here. I'm not sure actually colors, whether we're getting this pink version. Hang on a sec. What colors are we getting? Yeah, thought so. We're not getting the pink version here, so it's coming in both black and white. The white looks great now. Whether it will age as well as the black, probably not. But it's certainly a very interesting device, and I think this is going to be one of those ones that if you're more of a tweaker, if you're happier to have a device that perhaps does more but is a little bit rough around the edges, I think you really like this. It's coming in at the moment for a launch of £699, and that's also bundled with the dock and a couple of accessories and things. So it's an interesting device, and I'll be very interested to see how well it sells, but I would definitely like to see more development of this going forward. This could kind of go either way. I think this could be something that really works, and Antec actually sell quite a lot and then they invest quite a lot of money into it, but I get the feeling that they're a little bit reserved and they're not entirely sure how well this is going to go down. So the question very much goes out to you on this. What do you make of this device? Is this something that you think is a bit of a game changer with the keyboard? Is this what you've been waiting for? Or do you think that those ergonomic issues and perhaps the fact that the things you're going to interact with all of the time, like actually navigating through Windows or actually obviously the joysticks and the triggers, they should have had a little bit more attention to detail? Maybe that would increase the price. I'm not entirely sure, but I think this is a try it out if you can device. And if you're, like I say, a bit of a tweaker, I think you're going to be very interested in this. But we would absolutely love to hear from you. Smash the like button if you've enjoyed this video though, and get yourself subscribed, and we'll see you in the next one.